Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about a very important subject in car buying, and that's the credit application. What we're going to try to do is give you an approach to how to avoid the problems with the credit application and associated with the credit application. This is a really important topic for people wanting to buy cars because really the root of so many problems and the loss of so much money is very much tied to car dealership practices about getting you to sign the credit application. So we're going to try to convince you that there's only really one time that it's appropriate to sign the credit application. If you don't, if you do it at some other time or in some other way, you are really handing over the controls and opening up the drawbridge into the castle of your money. So you're going to be letting the dealership take control of the all-important financing of the deal, and they're going to use that to basically take your money, hundreds and thousands of dollars that you don't otherwise need. So when's the right time to be filling out a credit application? And that's really towards the very, very end. Before you've gone to the dealership, you need to have done the first thing, which is to go to annualcreditreport.com and get your free annual credit report. You can get that. It gives all 3 credit bureau ratings. You have to put in some time to put in your information to get that, but you clean up your credit so you don't have any problems that way. And then the critical step is to arrange your own financing. Go to your credit union or your bank, go online, and see what you qualify for, what kind of rates you're going to get, shop around, and have a pre-approval already done. If you do that, you're ahead of 80% of all car buyers. Probably the same percentage of those car buyers are going to be financing, they're not paying cash, and they're going to wander into the dealership unprepared. They're not going to know what their credit score is. They're not going to know if there are problems on their credit report. They're not going to have arranged their own financing. So if the dealership tells you that they've got you a great deal or the best deal, you won't know. Understand that dealerships make a profit on arranging the financing. They're allowed to within certain limits in California and elsewhere. But how it works is they will say apply to several different lenders to approve your particular car sale. Maybe you get approved for 3.5% APR. They will sell you that loan at 4.5 and then take a commission for that extra 1% that they've jacked up your approval and get a kickback from the lender for basically selling you a loan at 4.5% that you could have had for 3.5. Now, the car dealership really wants to control every aspect of the sale and every moment that you're at the dealership. And the credit application is really a fundamental part of how they do that. If you let them take control of your financing, what happens is they will start immediately to talk to you, not about the price of the car, the price of extras that they're going to want to add on, but they're going to talk to you about the monthly payment. Now, the monthly payment is a real problem in terms of negotiation for a consumer, because the consumer doesn't know what's going into that monthly payment. They don't know the annual percentage rate, they don't know the term of the loan, they don't know even the prices of the car or truck, they don't know any add-ons, any extras, any extended warranties or service contracts, gap contracts. They don't know the cost of any of these things. They only see what to them looks like a bottom line, but is really just a way that the dealership can manipulate all of those items for its profit. It'll sell you more car or less car with more or less products or different kinds of products, and they'll pack what they call that payment with those extra items or with costs you don't understand. When they describe any kind of an item by the monthly payment, that makes the item look sort of inexpensive. So if you buy a $3,000 service contract, they won't talk to you about the $3,000. They'll talk to you about the only tens of dollars maybe that you pay more per month, and that makes it more palatable. In the end, it's costing you just as much. It just looks different. And again, they're packing all this information into that one number, that payment number. What you want to do is not sign any kind of credit application. Don't authorize them to run your credit. Tell them that you are going to be a cash buyer, or that you've arranged your own financing, and that you don't need their help with the credit application. Again, later in the sale, once you've come through and done all your negotiating, you can then apply for credit and see if they can beat whatever deal. But you don't want to turn over the negotiation power to them and have them start controlling it from the beginning, because they will use it against you. Now, beyond packing stuff in and making the negotiations more difficult, the credit application is a real problem for consumers. Understand that they're getting access to a lot of your financial history. They're going to know how much you make. They're going to know what your other bills are. They're going to know your credit scores, all this information, and they can use that to, if you have a lot of money, to really make a push to sell those other extra items that they're going to try to pack in at the end of the day, or maybe raise the price of the car. They're going to know that you have a high limit. If you have less money or less financial wherewithal, but worse credit history, whatever, they can manipulate again to maybe put you into a worse or less expensive car, or a car that they can pack better and sell you again more of these extra products. It's important to know that probably at least 50% of the profits that any car dealership makes on a sale of a new or used car is going to be the back-end products, the gap contracts, the service contracts, the floor mats, all these other things in addition to the car that they're going to sell you in the finance manager's office. Again, if you filled out the credit application and you've put them in charge of financing, they're going to use that information against you. So we encourage you not to do that, to have all that information under your control and that you understand. And instead of negotiating the monthly price, you're going to concentrate on what's the easiest to negotiate. It's a straight number. It's called the cash price of the vehicle. And you can look that up online, and you can find competitive bids. You'll have a single number that you can understand. The car costs $18,000 or $38,000. Somebody else will sell it for less. Again, if it's on monthly payments, you're never going to be able to do any kind of competitive bidding or competitive shopping. Now, there are other problems with the credit application. And these really, I'm focusing here on people with more limited incomes, or with bad credit or no credit. What we've seen a lot of in car contracts, finance car contracts in California, is what they call credit kinking. So they'll have, typically, you sign a credit application in which some of the information on there is blank. How much you make a month, what your rent is, all these kinds of things. And then you'll sign it and not reading that the authorization says that all of the above is true. Then later, they will fill in, this is illegal, but they will fill in whatever numbers that they need to get you financed. So we've had clients who've come in and who make $2,000 a month and then found that their credit application had said $4,000 or $5,000 a month with their signature at the bottom. Now, that is, when you lie to a bank, it's a federal crime. Even though you're an unwitting victim in that case, you can see how you could get roped into potentially a very serious criminal violation, because they're going to presume that you did know, or that you signed that when all that false information was on there. So this leads us to the next problem with credit applications is they don't hand them over. In California car deals, the rule rather than the exception is that dealerships don't hand them over. However, the law is they have to give them to you before they give you the car. If you sign a credit application, the Automobile Sales Finance Act requires that dealerships provide you an exact copy of what you signed prior to your leaving the dealership with the car. That often doesn't happen. And oftentimes there's no good reason for that, or sometimes a really bad reason that they're trying to hide this credit kinking. So what we tell you is, if you do sign a credit application, make sure you get a copy before you leave. And perhaps just as importantly, contact the lender who eventually finances you and get a copy of what they have, because sometimes what you have is different than what they have. And we've found clients who've had forgeries, their names clearly misspelled and forged by dealerships, all in an attempt to make the sale. Another problem that happens when you put the dealership in charge of your credit application is you might get involved in what's called yo-yo financing, which is they tell you we've got a deal for you all set. They'll give you the car and then they'll yo-yo you back into the dealership. Something has happened, some kind of a problem, or they'll say they can get you a better deal or whatever it is, and you don't know. Oftentimes, this is part of an illegal scheme or a pressure sales tactic to get you to sign a worse contract, or one that's more profitable to them, or a variety of other kinds of schemes. Well, if you've arranged your own financing, that's not going to happen because you've already been approved. There's no way of saying, the deal didn't go through after all, we thought it did, bring it back. So if you keep the dealership out of your financing, if you've arranged your own financing beforehand, you can avoid a lot of the problems that come really essentially out of the credit application. Sometimes the dealerships will be able to have access to cheaper financing, better financing. Well, in that case, after you've negotiated the price of the vehicle, not on the basis of the financing and the monthly payment, but on the cash price of the vehicle, you'll be able to actually compare what they can provide to you. And you won't be subject to the same kinds of problems, misrepresentations, yo-yo sales, and other kinds of items. So in summary, don't sign the credit application if you can avoid it, and certainly don't ever sign it until after you've already arranged your own financing.